Good evening, race fans, and welcome to another race here with the Velocity Racing League, the 2022 VRL Cup Series. We are here today at The Rock, Rockingham Speedway for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. My name is Mason Heimball with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight alongside me, Gareth McAllister, here with Team Goon Squad as well, bringing us some lovely commentating action here from Australia as per usual. Gareth, how are you feeling about today's event as drivers get themselves out onto track to start qualifying here today?
I think it'll be a great race today. We've got about 22 degrees in turns 1 and 2 and 25 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. Rockingham seems to be one of those smaller sort of tracks at about a mile. Well, I guess I shouldn't say smaller, as next week we're going to a half-a-mile track at Nashville Fairgrounds, but still probably the smallest one that I've done with this league since coming here to broadcast, and I think we'll see quite a lot of good action as the race goes on in this one.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there, Gareth, as we see Tony Hillbrand's the title sponsor here with Phenom Paint Shop, showing the moves here as he gets a little loose there. I believe that was going through 3 and 4, but able to keep it together here to put down a 5th place time with a 24.40. Tonight is also a crown jewel race. Ooh, Aaron Smith, a little bit of a smack into the wall there for the 70 machine. That is probably going to be the end of his qualifying run. But as we get to more of the action here in qualifying, the drivers that are eligible for tonight's crown jewel race: Jaden Hopp, Tony Hillbrand, Patrick Colby, Howie Briss, and Scott Shire. None of those drivers currently out on track at this moment. Scott Shire, Tony Hillbrand have already put down times here. I believe Jaden Hopp has here as well. So James Coulibaly is the next driver up out on track that we see at this point in time, and the number 22 machine putting down some times here. But Gareth, taking a look at last week at Circuit of the Americas where we saw Aaron Smith, I mean, the lean, mean yellow banana, as we've been calling him here for the past few races, coming away with the win last week. I mean, coming here into the Rock, though, some of the drivers last week during their post-race interviews, I mean, I believe Aaron Smith included, kind of wary of what they might see here at Rockingham. I mean, what do you think we could see here tonight?
Well, hopefully not too many cautions. This track does have a tendency to bring out quite a few yellow flags during the race time, but hopefully we won't see too many of those and we can get it done as we go for about 246 laps of this one, so it'll be quite a long event. Rockingham, one of those tracks, it was originally opened in 65, which is a very long time ago, and it was originally just a normal oval, flat track, nothing too special, until 1969, and they decided to make it a D-shaped oval, chuck in some banking, and yeah, since then it's produced quite some interesting races and quite some famous winners over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what this historic track is going to put on here tonight for these drivers. Here in what is going to be, I believe, yes, this is the 30th race of the season. Daniel Mosteller having a big wreck in out of, I believe that was turn number 2. Taking it into the wall with a big spin. Actually, that was out of turn number 4. I do apologize for that camera angle, making it a little bit difficult to tell where things quite are. But anyhow, only about 30 seconds left, just under 30 seconds here in our qualifying run. And so far, 12 drivers have put down times, and only appears to be 16 drivers present for today's race. And Gareth, I'm kind of surprised by that one. I mean, most of the time here for Velocity Racing League, we're usually used to seeing drivers, in the 20s at least. I don't know if we've ever seen it past the 30 mark, maybe once or twice, if I recall correctly. But I don't know. Rockingham having a little bit of a lower numbers here tonight as far as drivers are concerned. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe the Rock might be not quite what some drivers are looking for here in this series. But not only that, Gareth, I mean, we also have a pretty tight championship for, I mean, the top 10, essentially, at this point. Howie Briss has pretty much walked away with the championship here, but we still have positions being fought for throughout that top 10 spot. So, I don't know, Gareth. It's kind of up in the air here as far as why we're seeing a little bit lower numbers than what we're usually used to, but that is all going to be not really in the question of things here tonight, as we have our starting grid, and we are going to go ahead and go through our starting lineup with Aaron Smith, Scott Shire in the front row, James Miller, Howie Briss in the second row, Benny Hogan, Nicholas Lovell in our third row, Tony Hillebrands, Matthew Fitz in our fourth row, Charles Jurek and James Coulibaly in our fifth row, Sean Williams, Jaden Hopp in our sixth row. Gareth, I'll pass it on to you.
Daniel Mostella starting in 13th. In 14th, we have Tom Mercia. And 15th, Nicholas Corsell. And 16th, Thomas Sewell. Now, in regards to what you were saying earlier about the lower numbers, Mason, I reckon it might have something to do with what you said earlier, just before in the broadcast. You were talking about how this track does sometimes produce some interesting results and quite a few crashes, so it might be that some drivers just decided to sit this one out and they didn't want to get involved in some unnecessary wrecks, and they probably couldn't afford the payment needed to fix their ARCA bodies back up after having another wreck in this one. So maybe they're all getting prepared for a big event at Nashville Fairgrounds next week. I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there, as we get ready for our field to make their way in and out of turns 3 and 4. The pace truck gonna make its dive down into pit lane. 246 laps that we will be seeing here tonight for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. Aaron Smith, Scott Shire up in our front row. Let's see how this restart goes. We await the green flag to drop here for the very first time, and away it goes across the checkered line. It's Aaron Smith, the lean, mean, yellow banana machine, out in the front, leading away from this field and starting to build up a little bit of a gap here as we come out of turn 2, and a little bit of a wobble there from James Miller in the 09 machine as they go single file up in the top 3 through 3 and 4, but double wide various parts of the field as we come out of turn 4 and across the checkered line.
Yeah, it's looking like a great race already. We've already got side-by-side action. That's going to be Nicholas Lovell and Tony Hillbrand side-by-side there. Lovell really making the outside line work. Look at that. Coming straight up to Benny Hogan. So that should be quite an interesting one as that develops. I'm not sure how long that high line will stay. As I say that, of course, Tony fires back and gets into the wall. That's Lovell, but able to hold it underneath him, which is great to see as we continue. Quite the endurance race, I reckon, at Rockingham with this. As we said, 246 laps. It's just over a mile per lap, so it's it's gonna wield some results, I reckon, as we see another 2-wide battle just up ahead, and that is between 2 of the Crown Jewel races. So should be an interesting
contact.
And well, there it is.
Contact.
Like you said,
with Benny Hogan initiating that one. Well, not initiating that one there, but Gareth,
involved.
I'm sorry to
involved.
Involved
in that one.
That was a rough one here. Let's take a look at our instant replay. Gareth, I mean, this was out of nowhere. Let's take a look here. This is a little bit too close for comfort. Let's back this up here. I wanna really digest what happened here. So Hillbrands gets up just a little bit too close to Benny Hogan there, and the rest of the field trying to check up in that moment. Multiple drivers getting involved in this one. Jaden Hopp, one of the Crown Jewel contenders here as well, getting involved in this one. The 81 DeWalt machine going to find himself restarting at the tail end of the field. Let's see if we can back this up here just one more time and get a perspective here of what happened here from Jaden Hopp's view, because it looks to be, Gareth, that, I mean, either they started to check up because they saw what was happening ahead of them or something else. Yeah, you can see the smoke. Okay, yeah, there it is. Jaden Hopp definitely not realizing what's going on possibly ahead of him. Maybe he could see the smoke, but probably couldn't exactly see why the smoke was happening and why drivers were starting to slow up there in that moment. But big wrecks here for multiple drivers, both in the championship as well in the Crown Jewel, and Tony Hillbrand, Nicholas Coruscant, Nicholas Lovell, Jaden Hopp, and Daniel Mosteller all going to find themselves down through pit road, as well as Aaron Smith, Benny Hogan, and Nicholas Coruscant, who have already made their way out onto track here. But Gareth, going back into this restart here, it's James Miller, Howie Briss on the front row, Scott Shire and Matthew Fitz in our second row here. So, I mean, already kind of having a massive shuffle happening in the field before even the first 10 laps of the race. I mean, what do you think mentality-wise would you be thinking as a driver in this?
Well, that's a difficult one, because if you're at the back and you weren't really feeling how the car was, you weren't really liking how the car was feeling underneath you, you'd be like, okay, time to regroup and get it back under. But if you're further up the front, you're probably thinking, oh man, wish we could have just gone green for a while longer just to get more of an idea of pace. And I'm not sure, how well the drivers are going to be behind me, but yeah, seeing that cloud of smoke. I mean, you'd have, when you're right behind a car in front, just on the subject of Jaden Hopp getting into the back of someone there, you wouldn't really be able to see over the back of the cars in front. I mean, he was so close already to the tail end, and it's just an unfortunate situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's tough being involved in that situation, but hey, that's racing for you, as we see the pace truck make its quick dive back down into pit road. Green flag drops here once again at Rockingham Speedway. James Miller, Howie Briss going to take this restart in the front row. Briss down on the inside, coming out of turn number 2. The 09 machine looking a little wobbly there on the top lane, coming through turn 2 there. But coming through 3 and 4, he's going to settle right back on the outside lane here, trying to get a run, but it's not quite going to work for him. Settle back behind the 97 of Howie Briss as we come back into turn number 1. Taking a little bit further look back in the field here. Jaden Hopp, one of the drivers that was involved in the incident earlier, finding himself with a little bit of technical issues outside of the racing itself here, it seems like. But despite that, still trying to work his way up this grid, as we're looking here with Benny Hogan in the Kellogg's number 5 machine. Now, I'm not a big fan of cornflakes, but I do like me, oh man, some frosted cornflakes. We're talking, all right, that's pretty decent. What about you, Gareth? What's kind of your favorite cereal of choice?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is really tough. I do love myself some cornflakes. I must admit to that. I know as a kid, Fruit Loops were all the rage. Your parents would never let you buy them, but on the off chance that you managed to persuade them to get you some, oh, they were tasty. Yeah. You kind of grow out of the sugary stuff, unfortunately. But every once in a while, you come back to it. Anyway, we still have a race. It's been interesting so far, I will say, getting back to racing here really quickly, that I've seen the outside work a lot more earlier on in this run. So that's just an interesting point of note, because we've seen the outside line, as Hillbrand's just proves the point once again, as Hopp did on the same corner, going around Sean Williams, that it's just, I'm not sure what it is, but it just seems like there's something with that outside line. It's just making the cars stick better. I don't know if it's just higher up the banking, get a better run out of the corner. I'm not quite sure, but it seems to be working for a lot of these drivers at the moment.
Yeah, you know, and the one thing that I'm kind of noticing here, Gareth, and we're riding on top of the 92 machine of Tony Hillbrand's here. You can notice here as we work our way through the turns just how bumpy this race surface is. I mean, these cars are just bouncing up and down this track here as we make our way through turn 3 and 4 right now. And you can even see it on camera here a little bit. The car just going up and down, up and down, up and down. That's going to affect the handling of the car. It's going to affect how the drivers, you know, enter a turn and exit a turn. If the car gets a little bit unsettled in the rear and you're, oh, look at that right there, the 92 machine having a little bit of a moment. Might have been a little bit of contact there with the rear end to the wall, but man, I can't stress to you guys how difficult racing here at the Rock can be. But these guys doing a phenomenal job here in this second restart. Lap 16 of 246. We've been racing for a little while now, since that last caution. Lap 4 was when we saw that dreaded yellow flag come out here at the Rock. But we've stayed green, and Howie Briss has continued to lead this race with the not quite the gap that he's probably hoping for here in first place. I mean, James Miller staying right hot on the tails in that. I'm hoping my eyes aren't deceiving me, and that is hot pink, because sometimes, you know, sometimes people try and, you know, depending on the monitor you're using, you set it as red, and then all of a sudden it's pink. I don't know, but I believe that I believe that's
I'm
pink.
seeing pink. I'm seeing pink, and I tell you what, Miller, I love it.
It looks great.
I'm a big fan of pink, man. Big fan of pink. Pink is good. Pink is power.
You know, they say only real men wear pink, so.
Exactly. I still need to get myself a pink shirt. I haven't got one yet. That's my goal.
I used to have one long time ago when I was younger, and my school was doing a fundraiser for breast cancer awareness, and we all got T-shirts and stuff like that for football games. It was cool. It was a great thing. But obviously, I have since outgrown said T-shirt, since that was many years ago. But either way, either how, I haven't outgrown racing here on lap 20 of 246 here for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. And for all of you joining us here at home, watching from the comfort of your homes here, enjoying the action here tonight, Don Hillbrands as usual joining us here in the chat as well. Don, great to have you. And to everyone else, thank you for joining us. Hope you all are enjoying the action and the random topics that myself and Gareth happen to find ourselves discussing here throughout the race, as we continue to just kind of tune along with some drivers here, looking at where the field is currently stacked at this point in time. And you know, Gareth, we talked a little bit about it before, well, kind of during qualifying, really. Ooh, Hillbrand's there getting a little spicy there with Benny Hogan trying to work his way up into the top 5 back in turn number 1 here, as he works his way out of turn number 2 and onto the back straightaway. But Hillbrand's among the top 5, looking to also win an extra $100 here tonight for the Crown Jewel race. And I believe that this is the second to last one, or the last one of, it is the last.
It's the last one.
It is the last Crown Jewel race of the season. So the last chance to dance as far as winning some prize money here for the 2022 VRL Cup Series. And I gotta say, only, you know, out of the 5 races that we've had for the Crown Jewel, only one driver has been able to claim the prize. So hopefully, maybe, we'll see another driver come home victorious here tonight. But Gareth, right now, everything's looking pretty calm and steady. No one is making any major slip-ups here at this point in time. Let's talk a little bit about our pit strategies here a little bit. Looking at our notes, fuel window is going to be looking at about 85 to 95 laps. So these guys have quite a long time as far as fuel is concerned, but we've also got 5 sets of tires in the pits. So drivers are going to have to come down into pit road. I mean, what are we thinking here? Are we thinking they're going to take it all the way to their fuel window and come through on, you know, when they're empty?
Well, historically, the Rock has chewed up some tires and spit them out. So it should be interesting to see how slidey, I guess, for because that's definitely the term I want to use. No, how much oversteer that these cars end up developing towards the end of a run, as it definitely seems like the tires at the moment seem pretty good. I haven't seen too many real bobbles or weaves, but as we see all the bumps and all the compression on those tires, I'm sure it's going to wear out quite soon. And it should be interesting to see if we're actually going to have them come down when the fuel window starts, or if they might come down a little bit earlier, just for maybe just a change in strategy. With 5 sets of tires behind pit wall, they've got definitely enough to maybe do something about strategy. Maybe come down when it's under green and a few laps before the actual pit window and change up the standings a little bit. It could definitely be a strategy race here that we're seeing tonight.
Oh, 100%. I think it will definitely come down to strategy and who has the better one as far as who's going to come home with the win here tonight. I mean, taking a look here at numbers as well, Gareth. I mean, if you take a look here as well with us, here on the left-hand side of your screen here, folks, if you're looking at home, you can see the last time that drivers have put down here at the Rock. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit of perspective here and just a little bit of an idea of what a fast lap, quote-unquote, would look like here. The fastest lap that Howie Briss, the 97 leader here at this point in the race, has set the fastest time for himself of a 24.50. Now that's not even the fastest time of the session. If I'm looking at things here correctly, I believe the fastest time is going to be set. Actually, you know what? I might eat my words here. I think it actually is 24.50, but that's also tied with James Miller. So equal times between the two. But point being here, folks, we have nearly a second difference since the start of the race here in time, and it's only 30 laps. So tire wear, I think, Gareth, is definitely starting to come into play here. I'm not exactly 100% certain what the temperature is looking like out on track here at this point, but I can't imagine that it is too cool here, as Aaron Smith has a little bit of a moment there coming out of turn 2 on the back straightaway. Keeps it together though. But Gareth, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think that these drivers are going to keep it out until that lap 80 to lap 90 mark. That would be impressive to see. First of all, here we go, side-by-side action here with Shire and Benny Hogan. Getting things real spiced up here as these cars, I mean, Gareth, I think these guys are starting to feel these cars get tightened up here as tire wear starts to come into play.
Yeah, Aaron Smith is always an interesting one to watch, in particular, because he seems to find speed where no one else can. And just looking at what we've seen the last couple of laps, he seems very loose, but he also seems to be pushing that car to its limits. So potentially, well, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It could be great, could be having a lot more pace than all the others, but you get a little bit too loose and you can find yourself slipping around on a banana peel. So you never really know how this one's going to end up. But really, historically, I think we'll see him come towards the front, as he's about halfway on the grid at the moment, just passing Scott Shire there, 4th, 6th position. So working his way up very slowly, and he'll be good to go, I'm sure. But the question is, did he save his tires early on, and is that why he's able to get a little bit more pace out of this car as opposed to some of the other drivers up front? I guess only time will tell, as it will become more apparent the longer the run is.
Yeah, and another thing to note here as well, for the folks watching at home that may now just be tuning in, during the early stage of the race, lap 4, we seen the yellow flag come out, and we had some drivers make their way down through pit road, and it looks to be a couple of them only took fuel, and and a handful of them came through for damage reasons and possibly for tires and fuel as well during that time. I mean, I can't imagine that you would want to use an entire fresh set after only starting a race, 4 laps, 5 laps in. But if you scrub those tires enough, I can imagine that you probably want to change them out. Those bald spots can definitely be pretty troublesome out on track. So I don't know, definitely some decisions having to be made in that course of time. But big slap into the wall out of turn number 4 from Aaron Smith in the 70 car. Quite the moment there, keeps it together. Hopefully not too much damage to the rear end of that car. Hopefully no suspension damage to that one. But yeah, Gareth, I mean, as we get kind of closer, to possibly the halfway point, let's say, of this stint, I mean, it's really interesting to see how difficult these cars are starting to look to be to handle at this point.
Yeah, it certainly is. As we take a look at Jaden Hopp here once again, he's been I guess just chilling in the back, really. I mean, ever since getting into the back of, I can't remember which car earlier on, as a result of that caution coming out, really, and not being able to quite see as he was right on the bumper of the car in front, he's been just biding his time, maybe saving up the tires for a late race run to the front. Could be interesting to see how that one shapes up, as we see Charles Jurek, Tony Hilbrands, and James Miller all fighting for second place. From the look of it, yeah, that's something I did not expect to see, as Miller was right on board, riding the tail of Howie Briss for a very long time, and Briss seems to have just checked out. And Tony Hilbrands is really trying something else to get around Charles Jurek, but yeah, Tony Hilbrands might be using a little bit more tires than he's wanting to, trying to get around Charles Jurek. And Jurek just riding that high line, gonna have a better run out of the corner as he hits the wall. Maybe not quite the run he wanted in that instance.
Definitely.
And Tony can get the 4th place position. Or 3rd place position, sorry.
Well, it appears that we've had a driver come down through pit road here as well. Tom Mercia, the 16 machine. Well, not 16. He's currently 16th. The 68 machine going to come down into pit road during this time. Not sure if this is an indicator of drivers making a start of pit stops here. It does appear that Mercia is working out some damage potentially to that 68 machine, as he is still down there in pit road. I mean, looking at it, it looks to be okay, but there might be some other issues or other obligations that the 68 machine has to obviously tend to. Boy, in order to enjoy the lovely passion of sim racing. But yeah, as Gareth kind of touched on there, Howie Briss has driven away from this field with his lead. I mean, 2.25 seconds here at this point in the race, and only climbing. I got to imagine here, Gareth, that James Miller had probably scrubbed his tires off trying to trace down, really track down the 97 of Briss, and unfortunately starting to see that 09 machine fall off the pace here a little bit, and really not showing any sign of, kind of pulling the cat out of the hat, if you will, and showing like, hey, I've been kind of saving my tires here, one of those situations. But it definitely doesn't seem like that case here for Miller. But the other thing here to kind of think about, some of these drivers, they might not have a great long run strategy, which is, I think, going to be critical in tonight's race. Which, I mean, if you're a short run driver, You might be able to make it work if there's enough cautions, but so far we've only seen one, and as we're about to cross the line here once again here very shortly. It'll be lap 50 of 246, so not a whole lot of time. Well, I mean, plenty of time, but definitely ticking off laps here a lot quicker than you would like if you're a short-run driver.
Oh, absolutely. That comes down to another thing about how strategy will really play a huge key. If you're a short run driver, it's very iffy to determine whether you come down and risk losing a lap before a caution, or you stay out as long as you can, hoping that if there are going to be long green flag run stops, that you can get back at it and pass the cars as a caution comes out. That's always the biggest thing with any of these NASCAR races, is that you just don't know when the caution's going to come out. That can really massively affect the strategy that you have in your mind, as I'm sure these drivers are massively thinking about all possible scenarios and how their position will be affected by a caution coming out, by a lap car ahead of them, by any reason. Is I'm showing that Aaron Smith's gone down a couple of laps, and so I'm not sure how that
Actually,
one's
I'm showing that he's actually out of the race.
Oh.
I did not catch that.
Well, he was, as Dawn alluded to, the banana was a little slippery. So,
Yeah,
in the spectator area,
Yeah.
Dawn Hillbrand's helping us out. So, yeah, he did look like he was having a lot of problems, and he might have decided that he doesn't want to get involved in anything or ruin anyone's big race. So,
that's really sad to see. I'm a little sad to see that.
it looks like Tom Mercier has dropped from the session as well.
Well, sad to see Aaron Smith, Tom Mercia. Tom Mercia still in the pits at this moment, but potentially going to be out, calling it a night here, as he's been down in pit road for quite some time, nearly 5 minutes now at this point in time. So unsure if there was, again, damage done to that 68 machine. Aaron Smith obviously having some troubles here at Rockingham and going to call it a night here early on. Lap 46, taking it behind the wall and saying, you know what, I am done. And you know what, Gareth, I mean, even kind of recalling last week our conversation up in the booth with Aaron Smith, I want to say that he wasn't too confident coming into Rockingham here tonight. And a lot of drivers, frankly, weren't too sure how to feel about coming into tonight's race. So I can start to understand why. This is a very technical, well, maybe not even technical, but just very driver track. That's how I'm going to say it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We've got some blinking problems going on there, but yeah, it's really because there's a lot of bumps on this track, as you can really tell from the camera here that we've got now. Because there's a lot of bumps, it's really delicate with the throttle, and even if you have the same machine underneath you, you might not be able to get as much out of it as you would like. As the car is constantly moving around, wobbling and moving all over the place, it really takes a different level of, I'd almost say passive skill, to drive around this track. You know, not to be too aggressive, just kind of take your time. And I think we're seeing an example of how Howie Briss is just able to continue to do that. He's consistently been the most consistent driver, and I guess you can see the perfect example of that, of how he's able to pull out the lead that he has pulled out. When in other tracks, we haven't seen him, like we've always seen him perform well, but never to this magnitude. And the way that the surface is could definitely be a reason as to why that's taken place.
Yeah, I think the track surface definitely has a lot to do with it. I mean, just taking a look at this onboard here with Nicholas Coruscant, you can just see, I mean, like Don kind of eloquently put it earlier, it's kind of like riding on a jet ski. And it really does kind of feel that way. But that's only just one part of it. You know, having a track that's kind of a little dippy and topsy-turvy here and there, that's not necessarily the only thing that's going to give you troubles. I mean, you're going to have drivers that are going to be fighting around you for position, trying to get any sort of momentum that they possibly can on you. It's going to be a very challenging race. And here at the Rock, it doesn't really seem like it's a 2-lane or even a 3-lane track. It definitely seems very one lane of traffic or one lane that you can choose from as far as, you know, where to be fast at. I mean, we see some drivers try and take it on the outside, but that far inside lane, that's where you want to be. And that's where you want to set yourself up here for passes, as Nicholas Coruscant does in the number 7 Sour Patch Kids machine. Gosh, I want some Sour Patch Kids now.
You said that a couple of weeks ago.
I know.
Or was it last week?
It's probably every week that I see it. And no, I haven't got any since then, but you know what? I probably should now, because every time that I see that 7 car, I just think to myself, man, I really would like some Sour Patch Kids. So maybe that's what I'll do next time.
I think Corcel is trying to tell you something. Buy him.
It could be. You know what? I think the last time that I saw that on his car, well, that I've seen that car really, because I don't think it's changed. I think I said whoever was doing marketing for that number 7 machine was doing a very phenomenal job, because it made me hungry. But anyway, I gotta say, 65 laps, all green. Well, 60. We'll call it 62 laps since the caution earlier. But you know, I gotta say, this has been quite the race here. And with about 20-ish, 20, 30 laps before we see drivers possibly make their way down into pit road. I mean, Gareth, what are kind of your thoughts here before we kind of take us a moment to step away and give ourselves a moment to have a commercial break and get ourselves a drink and whatever else we have to do?
Well, well, that was the interesting thing, because you did say earlier that it's 85 to 95 lap pit window. Now that will probably increase to around about lap 100 from that early caution. So, or yeah, it might increase to about lap 100 for the drivers who want to stay out as long as they can. And so it should be interesting, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of action, as pit road speed is only 40 mile an hour, so very, very slow pit road. And I'm sure we'll have quite a bit of action getting onto and off of pit road as we draw closer to that figure.
Lap 68 of 246 here for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. My name is Mason Heimball with Gareth McAllister here with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action here tonight. Folks, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back for more as we continue on with tonight's event. We're going to go ahead and step away from the booth for just a moment, grab ourselves a drink here, and get ready for the next half. Well, not even half. We're not even halfway through tonight's race yet, but we will be right back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll have more iRacing right here on Team Goon Squad. Welcome back, folks. We are watching the battle here for third place now between James Miller, Nicholas Corcel, and Daniel Mosteller. And we were having a little bit of a chat here during the commercial break, and Daniel Mosteller, the 87 machine, showing some real good pace here in the final, well, in the later half of this stint here. Gareth McAllister showing that, pointing that out here to myself, saying that he is showing some real good runs here, and I gotta agree that right now he's put some pressure on Nicholas Corcel, and now James Miller making a pass here around the 09 machine, making it seem as if the 09 was standing still. But while that's happening, Charles Jurek coming down into pit road in the number 76 machine. So we have a few drivers, well, one driver rather, coming down here into pits a little early here, and he's not coming in to stay in. He's going to be out on track here in just a few seconds as the 76 machine, the Fallout DayZ 76 car, gets back out onto track here, as we still have a few drivers. Blinky, having some troubles here.
Don't say it again. Not again.
Oh, I gave Gareth a little bit of PTSD from a comment I made last week. But Tony Hillbrands, though, meanwhile, is coming down here into pit road, and smoke coming from the 77 of Thomas Sewell as well, coming across the commitment line. So hopefully no penalties being served down in pit road. But right now, Tony Hillbrands, Thomas Sewell going to take the undercut here, if you call it that, as well as Benny Hogan. I mean, he came down 10 laps earlier. He's back out on track here as well. So I don't know, Gareth. I mean, I think we're going to start to see these drivers come in a lot sooner than we think, but for Howie Briss, this guy's worked his way up 7 seconds, so it almost seems like he's going to come in pretty much any time he wants.
Well, yeah, there's some big strategy plays being thrown out there, I think, at the moment, because as you said, a bit of smoke just there at the exit of pit road, someone leaving their box in a hurry. I believe that, what we're seeing is people come down based almost purely off of tires, because the fuel run should be still able to be ran for another 20 or so laps. So yeah, everyone playing a bit of a strategy game, wanting some new fresh rubber underneath them and not liking how it's feeling. But in regards to Howie Briss, it could actually come back to bite him if he stays out for too long, because with the fresh tires that these other drivers have, they will be making up time on him quite quickly. So he probably wants to come down and be in the same boat as we see Scott Shire making his way down pit road now.
Yeah, as well as Nicholas Lovell, who you just saw on your screen just a minute ago. Don Hillbrand says, get yourself a PBR and let's have a good race. Well, Don, I got myself some, what is this, Pure Leaf unsweetened tea, so I got that going for me, but we're continuing on with the action here. Good racing since the first caution. Everyone keeping everything clean and green, and really kind of spreading things out quite significantly here. For only a mile-long track, things get rather spread out over a short period of time, and frankly, it looks to be that it's not quite as easy to stay on the tail of anybody and really make any sort of challenges here, as we see James Miller and Jaden Hopp take it side by side out of turn number 4 and out onto the front straightaway.
Yeah, it's nice. Actually, quite a nice sort of easy sort of looking pass there from Sean Williams on James Miller. Miller, we saw, burn his tires up quite early. Now, still, neither of those two, I believe, have come down pit road. So, yeah, could be interesting to see how and as I say that, I get immediately proven wrong as Sean Williams comes down pit road.
Let him know. Never let him know your next move.
I was just about to say, like, I expected him to stay out maybe another lap or two while I was talking about them, but nope. Sean Williams deciding that, hey, I'm on camera, let me hide. and
I'm gonna get out of
literally
here.
hides behind the box. It's just so.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, Mostella up in first position now since Howie Briss has also come down pit road. So, Mostella, one of those drivers we saw somehow, well, I say somehow, obviously, slowly and methodically working his way to the front as he's clearly been really gentle on those tires and has made up 12 spots so far. Corcel behind has made up 13 as well, who is our biggest mover of the race at the moment. However, yet to come down pit road, so we shall see how they stack up when they come down. They did come down under the caution laps with Jaden Hopp in third position at the moment as well. So it will be interesting to see when they come down, but I'm sure it will be within the next few laps as well.
Yeah, so taking a look here, kind of just doing some guesstimating here. Looking at timing and scoring based on where everyone came down through pit road right now, it looks like Benny Hogan, the next driver with the most recent set of tires here on the ticker on the left-hand side of your screen here. He has the most, well, currently the oldest set out of the drivers who've recently come down into pit road. Granted, he came in lap 62, so once the top four come through, I do believe that Benny Hogan is going to find himself in the lead, but with nearly 12, 13, I believe 13 lap older tires than that of the rest of the field here, so he's definitely going to be, I don't know. He's by himself at this point in the time. I mean, he doesn't have anyone around him kind of giving him trouble or really giving him too much hassle. But as drivers start to potentially get up to one another, lap traffic coming into play, I can't imagine that the tire wear on that number 5 machine is going to hold up very well to drivers who have come in, say, lap 78, lap 82, lap 78. Tony Hillbrand's right behind him in the 5th place spot. He came in lap 75, which I was using as a reference to give that example. But yeah, Gareth, I mean, things are going to come down to the wire, and like you said earlier, it's going to come down to a strategy game here tonight at Rockingham.
Oh, absolutely. Benny Hogan, as you said, kind of out there on his own with his own pit strategy, but that doesn't necessarily mean it won't work. I mean, it could definitely be the strategy of choice. It's always very, very difficult to determine how the race will play out. Even if it goes green the whole time, you're never quite sure how it will play out with strategy wise. So Hogan at the moment looking like maybe Benny Hogan just wants to lead a lap. You know, it's sometimes you find yourself doing an interesting strategy choice just because you want to be out in the limelight for a little bit of time and maybe even get a couple bonus points for leading laps or whatever the case may be. So could be doing that as well, as we see Corcel getting overtaken there by Howie Briss, and I believe Howie Briss was just getting a lap back. Not sure if is he on the lead lap now or is still one lap down? I believe he's still one lap down, but
yeah, I believe he is. I think he is still one lap down here. I think we're still waiting for the now top 3 to make their way down through pit road before we see these drivers get shuffled up to the top of the field here. But yeah, I gotta
well, you can see just there the example of new tires versus old tires.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's roughly about a second, maybe a second and a half even, of pace difference between the two, and that fresh rubber, that'll get you there faster.
100%. You know, and you can't stress it enough how important tires are in a race here, as we're just going to ride on board on the top of Nicholas Lavelle's 37 machine here and just kind of soak in the sights and the sounds here at Rockingham as we talk a little bit more about today's race. And as drivers, I mean, continue to close up gaps, try and do whatever they can here in this midway portion of today's race. I mean, this is really only the second stint that we'll see here tonight that drivers will do. I expect to see at this rate probably another 2 more stints, including this one. So 1 more stint after this, and this will be a done job here for tonight's race. Maybe 3. I don't think it'll quite get to that point. We'll have to wait and see, though. I don't quite have the numbers all in my head at this moment, even though the Black Ops Call of Duty 2 game, the Black Ops 2 game would like to indicate otherwise. I do not know what the numbers mean. So
Yeah, Mason. I was wondering where you were going with that for a second. I thought, oh yeah, no, I like that.
You know, it was
numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Anyway, sorry, as I go into my scary voice. Benny Hogan could definitely make it an extra stop. I think that's almost what Hogan was planning for, is that third stop down pit lane, and that's why he came down as early as he did. That's what I believe.
Yeah, you know, I think that might be the case here. It doesn't really seem like Hogan is pushing super aggressively. I mean, he's just enjoying the clean air right now. Again, the 5 Kellogg's machine, no one really out here to give him any pressure, give him any hassle as he works through 1 and 2 right now. And as he does that, Daniel Mosteller and Jaden Hopp going to make their way down here into pit road. And there you can see just a little bit behind the number 5 of Benny Hogan, the 92 of Tony Hilbrand's, just looming behind that first place. Well, will be first place spot here once we see the 7 of Nicholas Coruscant finally decide that he is done abusing those poor sets of Goodyears. Those things are probably going to be melted when the pit crew takes them off of that car. But there it is. The 7 comes down into pit road, and he is going to get on a fresh set of rubber here. The last driver to complete their pit stop strategies here today. So, and as we see that Tony Hilbrand's Benny Hogan taking it side by side through 1 and 2 and out onto the back straightaway. It is not long, though, for Tony Hilbrand's to make his way past the number 5 of Benny Hogan. And I don't know, Gareth. I mean, do you think that was tires in that situation? It just seemed like he blew past him. I mean, I don't know if that was just all just pure driving or if that had a little bit of tire wear involved in that pass there.
No, I think tires definitely had something to do with it. Benny Hogan's tires are 13 laps older, and I think they're going to start wearing out a little bit now, as they're probably already, you know, close to 3/4 of their lifespan already through, if not, maybe just over half. But yeah, I definitely think that a big part of that was the difference in tire wear, as you just saw. That's James Miller going around as well, but I believe Miller is trying to get his lap back. So, yeah, Tony Hilbrand's really showing that he has speed. And we've seen that out of Hilbrand's before, quite a few times. Unfortunately, more often than not able to get himself into victory lane as much as he'd like, so hopefully not the fall off that we are used to seeing from Tony Hilbrand's, as we've seen him up front many times before. But definitely one of our crown jewel drivers, as you can see there from the yellow splitter, the yellow spoiler, and the yellow, I think it's on the top of the visor. I'm not quite sure exactly what that's called, but maybe it is called the visor. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's like the banner or something along those lines, visor banner or something. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So hopefully he can bring this one home and win himself a nice, cool $100.
Yeah, I think, you know, coming home with a fresh, cool Benjamin in your pocket has always got to be a great feeling. And Tony Hillbrands, I mean, despite being the league owner, you know, has put on an incredible season, not only as a owner, but as a driver. I mean, he's been up there in the points, battling it out with the likes of Howie Briss, Jaden Hopp, Nicholas Lovell, Sean Williams, Benny Hogan, James Miller. I mean, I could go on and on here, folks, but Hillbrands does a phenomenal job week in and week out, putting up these races every single week, making sure that these drivers have a setup to use for said races. It's a phenomenal what Tony Hillbrands does for the Velocity Racing League and for the Cup Series as well. So great to have him and Phenom Paint Shop as the title sponsor for today's race. Phenom Paint Shop 250. So great to see him up in the front leading today's race, lap 108 of 246, and among one of the drivers to come home with an extra $100 in his pocket. So I could imagine him just kind of, you know, pulling out his wallet, taking out 100, and then just kind of stuffing it in his pocket and putting his wallet back. I don't know how that would work out. I could see how that would go.
It's a sense of accomplishment. Maybe Dawn will give him $100.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how that'll work.
Maybe Don will be nice enough and say, hey, you know what? I'll give you $100.
Hell yeah. Yeah, one thing that we haven't actually noted yet, there's only 4 Crown Jewel races or Crown Jewel drivers out there at the moment. Patrick Colby, unfortunately, was named a Crown Jewel racer, but not able to make his way onto the track today. So unfortunate for him, but obviously not unfortunate for the other 4 drivers involved, as Jaden Hopp, Tony Hillbrands, Howie Briss, and Scott Shire will all be happy that they have one less person to race against for that sweet Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, and I mean, we say it as if it's, something super easy and obtainable, but winning a race here in any of these tracks that we've had a Crown Jewel race at, it's, getting up in the top 3, the top 5, the top 10, that's one thing. But winning it, that's a whole different story here, folks. That cannot, I lost my train of thought here as I read Don Hillbrand saying, Dad can do that. So we have a great idea now, Garrett. But either way, as we continue on with the action here, we've got side-by-side, a little bit of side-by-side action happening here with Jaden Hopp as well as Howie Briss here, surprisingly. The second-place driver going to find himself with a little bit of lap traffic involved here. There you see Tony Hillbrands just a little bit further ahead. So Daniel Mosteller, Jaden Hopp, they're trying to get themselves unlapped here. Ooh, side by side with the race leader through turn 4 and out onto the front straightaway. Fresher tires playing a huge factor here. Both of these drivers, Mosteller and Jaden Hopp, came in on lap 98. Get that. That is insane. So both of these drivers taking it out as long as they possibly can, and with nearly, I would say, almost a 20-lap advantage over the rest of the field. I mean, these two are just flying through this track at this point in time. But as I say that, we've got a little bit of side-by-side action happening with Briss and Hillbrands as we duke it out of turn number 2 and onto the back straightaway. Hillbrands gets in front of the 97. Down into turn number 3, both of the Crown Jewel drivers are looking for a win here tonight, not only for the championship, but for that crispy Benji that we all would love to see either one of these drivers come home with here tonight. I mean, both of these drivers have put on a phenomenal season, and frankly, Hillbrands here has fought for a win in almost every single race that we've seen him in. Well, he's fought for a win in almost every race he's been in. Maybe with the exception of the road courses, we know that he's not he's not the biggest fan. Well, not the strongest at the road courses, but he definitely does try his best, and it definitely does show. So, I don't know, Gareth. I mean, if you had to pick between these two drivers, who you picking?
Oh, we're playing that game, are we?
It's back, baby.
Well, sorry, Tony, I love you, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Howie Briss, and I'm gonna have to go with Howie Briss because we saw the domination earlier on, and definitely seems to be one of those drivers that can hold his tires. He also has about 6 laps fresher tires than Tony does in front, so might just be sitting behind to wear him down. As there's the move. Tony Hilbrand's having to stick it up high as Howie Briss goes for the run on the inside. We've seen the high line be almost the preferred line for these drivers at the moment, and Hilbrand's showing just that, holding Howie Briss down on the inside, only going up about halfway on the track surface, so pinning Howie Briss down. And Howie Briss is going to try it again, maybe no, sticking behind him this time. Maybe deciding, you know what, Tony's tires will wear out quicker. I just have to stay behind and keep trucking along.
Don Hilbrand's in the chat. No, don't jinx it. Oh, Gareth, we're going to be in trouble here if we get the 92 machine in any sort of danger here. The commentator's curse hopefully is away and taking a nap somewhere in Siberia. But so far, so good. We've only seen the one yellow, and luckily, I think, actually, if I recall correctly, the 92 machine was involved in that caution, and he came out from it strong. I mean, ever since then, it has been a very solid performance here for Tony Hilbrand's. And up into first place, leading the race with Howie Briss in second, Charles Jurek in third. I mean, other drivers that we could see come away with the win here tonight, Gareth. I mean, it all comes down to race strategy here again as well. And some of the drivers that we might be looking out for that race strategy. I mean, we've seen Jaden Hopp, I believe, Benny Hogan, come down into the pits super early than the rest of the field, about 10 laps earlier than most of the guys here tonight. So I don't know, could we see Benny Hogan work his way up to the front, or could we see some drivers, kind of taking some super long stints here and then waiting until the very end and saying, hey, I'm gonna take a short run here, shorten it up real nice, and have 15-20 lap fresher tires than everyone at the end and take it home for the win. I mean, it's a tough gamble, but do you think we could see some of that happen here tonight strategy wise?
Yeah, I would say so. I'd say it's very tough to call from what we can see up here in the booth, and even with all our timing and scoring sheets and everything like that, it's when it comes to this kind of strategy and with all the spanners that can be thrown outside, not outside the window, but in the works, that you never really know how it's going to play out. And the thing is that we just don't know. I mean, Benny Hogan has really been trying to perform on those older tires, and that's certainly commendable. I do believe that he's decided that he needs to come down what would it be? It'd be a fourth time because he came in on that caution. So I believe he's made the decision 100%. And some of the other drivers, I think actually you might find that, like Jaden Hopp, Daniel Mostella, Nicholas Corsell, coming in at around near as makes no difference lap 100, I do believe that those drivers are thinking potentially just one more stop, which would be very, very interesting to see. I'm really excited to see how this one's actually going to play out. I didn't expect to see the strategy race that we're seeing so far in this one. So I don't know, Mason. Well, here's a question for you. Do you prefer the stay out as long as you can sort of method, and then come out and try to make it as little stops as possible, or do you prefer to have fresh good years underneath you as much as you can?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, Gareth, I'm more of the type of person that if I have the opportunity to come down into the pits, I'm gonna come down into the pits and I'm gonna get a fresh set. Um, and that's just me. I'm not 100% confident all the time when driving on here. Even as we're talking about this, Benny Hogan coming down into pit road, lap 130 of 246. So I don't know, staying true to that kind of undercut strategy, if you will, for the number 5 Kellogg's machine as he works his way to his pit box. But yeah, answering your question here, Gareth, I mean, I'm not one to try and say, hey, I'm gonna try and extend these tires a good 3, 4, 5 laps or more, depending on the track that you're at. If my crew chief is telling me you're done, your tires are done, you need to come in, you need to get them changed and get back out there, that's when I'll come and do it. But I'm not the type to ignore that and try and see what she could do, as the kids like to say.
Is that what the kids say nowadays, is it?
Maybe.
Sure, why not?
I could take a lucky guess here, but yeah. Continue on, sir.
Well, we see how Bruce continuing to stay behind Hilbrands as Benny Hogan has come out of pits, and you can see there just the difference in tires. Benny Hogan's gonna get a lap back in very short order, as there he goes, almost collecting Hilbrands. I think there was a little bit more pace in Benny Hogan's mind than there was in the actual tires there, but nothing too untoward happening. So that's certainly what we want. Is Hogan definitely confirming when he came down that my thoughts exactly, that yeah, one more stop for Benny Hogan is definitely has to be the case. But it should be interesting to see if we have any more takers for the 3-stop strategy under green, that is, for the 3-stop strategy as we continue to watch this battle. But just an interesting point of note about The Rock is that it was actually used as a location for filming Days of Thunder, which if anyone watching is aware, is a NASCAR film with Tom Cruise, and I'm sure most people are aware of that, but you never know. And honestly, one of my favorite films. I think it's probably one of my favorite, not only racing films, but just films of all time.
I don't know if I've ever seen that one specifically, Gareth. Maybe I have, but I know the one NASCAR. It's a movie.
Oh,
but
I know what you're gonna say. Don't say it.
You know what I'm gonna say, don't you?
Don't say it. That's. I don't know why so many people like that movie. I didn't like it too much, but.
The only reason.
If you want to say it, you can say it, but I'm not bringing it up. I'm not giving it the time of day.
Well, folks, Talladega Nights always has a good place in my heart, but it's one of those films that you can't take too seriously, and that's probably why I enjoy it, because I just like the jokes. It's funny. But anyway, with that out of the way here, the action that we've seen here tonight, Gareth, I mean, despite all the legendary movies that have been made in various racetracks, I don't know if The Rock was ever, well, you mentioned it was used for one of them, but, this is just one of the tracks in NASCAR history that just really, it goes a long ways back. And the further you look in the history of, the sport of not only NASCAR, but just racing in general, the more fascinating that it kind of becomes. And just learning more of the history of, when people started to decide, like, hey, this is kind of fun.
I think I've always found it fascinating how it's evolved to how much people love cars, and just not only cars, obviously bikes as well, and even even planes do air races. I think it's just something about the competitive nature of some people where it's about the speed. You just want to be able to go faster.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge. But we've got a lot of cars under a blanket at the moment. Corsell, Williams, Mostella, Hop, all very, very close and not too far ahead of them. Got, I think, Lovell and Briss as well. No, Lovell and someone, I believe, a lap down as well, slightly up front. But yeah, so this is that's Scott Shire.
I was trying
Interesting.
to find him for you. That's who I was looking for.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's Scott Shire. So not sure what's happened to Scott. Seems to be dropping back quite a bit. So perhaps the tires aren't liking that. Lap 78. So the older tires of the field for sure, but sort of the same sort of compound time as Tony Hilbrand's and Nicholas Lovell. So maybe just used him up a little bit too much, and as you see, Lovell getting tracked down himself as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it at the top of the broadcast too, Gareth. I mean, you kind of mentioned that the Rock here can be notorious for eating away at tires, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. You know, depending on how aggressive you are going into a turn, or, you know, even going out of a turn, or even just trying to, you know, hold a line with someone. I mean, I think it can definitely have a huge impact on the overall lifespan of your tire here. I mean, this track, it definitely doesn't look forgiving in any regard, whether it's to the driver or to the car. It definitely seems like it has a lot going for it as far as difficulty is concerned. So, I mean, lap 146 of 246, we are officially 100 laps left to go here for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. And I gotta say, you know, only 100 laps left to go. We've definitely been clicking off laps here very consistently for quite a while. And, I mean, at this point, Gareth, this has been like an impressive green flag race since lap 4 when we took the first yellow flag of the race.
Oh, absolutely. I think, well, you know what? I don't think. I know these drivers are notorious for really making long green flag runs. I haven't really called a whole lot of action that's been caution after caution after caution. So it's been great to see how these drivers are able to maintain that green flag standard and race each other hard but fair, which is the best way of racing other cars around you. As you see, there's a battle going on between Corsell and Hop for that third spot. Benny Hogan trying to get a lap back after getting fresher tires than these other two, is looking to pounce on wherever a gap may be. Preferably not going 3 wide, I would suggest. And that's a good idea, to wait for one of them to pass, and Jaden Hop making the pass on Corsell, allowing Hogan to slip through.
Yeah, as we have a little bit of blinking happening here with some of our drivers still, but it is still working out to be. That is not what we want to see here. Not at the most ideal time either, as, I mean, well, maybe not. Maybe actually at an ideal time. I mean, this is kind of towards the end stage of a lot of drivers' tire wear. I mean, most of the drivers came in lap 70, lap 80, so this is getting pretty close to that point in time again where drivers are going to be thinking about coming down through pit road anyway. It might hurt some of the drivers that might have been thinking of staying out a little bit longer to be able to take advantage of potentially that 3-stop strategy like you alluded to a little bit earlier. But I mean, Gareth, I mean, that still potentially could be a possibility for some drivers here. I mean, we're within 100 laps of the end.
Yeah, it'll be a stretch, but excuse me, from what we've seen, there are a couple of drivers who definitely are willing to push Nicholas Corcel, Daniel Mostella, proving earlier on that they can go very close to 100 laps. They pit on lap 98 with the caution earlier on, so probably more like around the lap 94, 95 mark. But with that being said, they could definitely stretch a couple more laps to make it to the end here. So it's really shaping up. That caution came at a really inopportune time for a lot of these drivers, and I'm sure Benny Hogan is one of them as well, who was not too happy to see that caution come out, as I believe Benny Hogan will be trapped a lap down, and that interesting strategy that he was working on has probably been thrown out the window at this point.
Yeah, taking a look here, I mean, by the time we come back to green, it'll probably be something like 92 laps left to go. And by that math, I mean, most of the field, with the exception of like 2 or 3 drivers, all came in before 90 laps of their tire wear. Or really, realistically, before like 85 laps of their tire wear. So I don't know if all of the drivers are going to stay out this stint, because everyone here is going to come through the pits. Everyone is going to get a fresh set. Everyone is going to be on a level playing field this restart, but with a roughly, we'll just call it a 90 lap window to the checkered flag. I mean, that's really cutting it close for drivers that are going to be fighting for. I mean, this is really what this is ultimately going to do here, folks. This is going to test all of these drivers' long run capabilities here. You either got it or you don't.
I feel like that's the answer to everything.
Yeah.
You've either got it or you don't. I remember a friend of mine once said that everything is a 50% chance. You know, like even if, like, to win here today, people would say, oh, you've got a 1 in 16 chance. Well, actually, it's 50-50, because either you do win or you don't.
True.
So
it's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So obviously it's not the stats way of looking at it, but it's just, yeah, it's just, in a way, it's not wrong. But yeah, I don't think anyone's going to come down to pit road early. I believe that even though some of these drivers couldn't make it the whole stint, I believe they're going to try and make it the whole stint, because you lose 2 laps coming down pit road, and it's one lap, but it's not worth it.
Definitely not. As we have the pace truck make its way back down into pit road, the green flag drops here once again at Rockingham Speedway. Oh, a little bit of action here as we come through turns 1 and 2. Out onto the back straightaway, and the 87 machine gets a little bit of trouble here, and there's trouble down the back stretch.
Mostella, all that work going from way in the back to way in the front, and just getting a little bit loose on those fresh tires. Oh, gets run over by James Miller and Nicholas Lovell. So yeah, just trying to save it, and not enough room on the racetrack.
Unfortunate to see. And, you know, hopefully we don't see, you know, kind of have the old saying of cautions breed cautions come into play here. Hopefully we get these drivers another good... I mean, to me, it just seemed like that was just a lot of kind of pent-up, I don't want to say aggression, but just kind of like, hey, I want to be in this race. I want to scrap for positions. A lot of excitement in that restart here, as, I mean, we saw 150 something laps with green flag racing. So that's a long time to go around the track without seeing a yellow flag and seeing really a healthy chunk of drivers ahead of you or behind you. Just competition in general, when you're, kind of just seeing clean air all around you, it starts to get a little lonely sometimes. But so I don't know. I think just a lot of jitters, a lot of excitement on that restart coming into play here, but hopefully that wears off. Well, not necessarily wears off, but kind of gets in control here for these drivers on this next restart, as Tony Hillebrands retains his lead. Howie Briss in second, Nicholas Horcel in third, with Sean Williams in fourth, and Scott Shire rounding out the top five. And it looks like James Miller, the 09 machine, is going to limp the 09 car down into pit road, as a few other drivers as well, Matthew Fitz, Benny Hogan, Nicholas Lovell, they've also been down here in pit road for a while. Matthew Fitz has been down here for quite some time, as well as Jaden Hopp. So going to see possibly a few more drivers call it a night here, and kind of unfortunate to see that here, Gareth.
Yeah, it's not what you want to see at all, but James Miller, we saw there, had, I'm not sure if it was collapsed suspension on the front left or if the tire was just gone, but it was hopping along the inside of the banked oval, looking very, very poorly. But it looks like he'll be able to make his way back out, I believe, before the pace track comes back in. Yeah, I think he's coming out now, so he'll be about a lap down, which is unfortunate, as you saw him get caught up just behind the pace truck, just in front of Tony Hillbrand. So we'll rack him up, stack him up, and get ready to go once again, as we saw a few cars come down for those extra 4-lap newer tires. I was wondering about this earlier. Do you reckon that's going to play a huge role? That small roll of 4 laps could really make a difference as we get to the end of this one, if this stays green the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm not too certain about that one, Gareth. I mean, it's kind of a toss in the air, whether or not that's going to be a huge factor going into this kind of final stint of the race, if you will. What I am kind of noticing here, though, is that we have seen the numbers of our field drop drastically, as right now only 9 drivers left out on track. So the competition is wearing down rather thin for the rest of this field. And I mean, take that as you will, but man, starting from 16 and going to about nearly half of that is quite the sight to witness. And it's not as if we've seen a lot of cautions here tonight, just a few cautions with a lot of drivers involved as we come back to green flag racing here. Tony Hillebrands with a phenomenal restart out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, single file developing here through our top 5 as we come back to green flag. Racing here at Rockingham Speedway for the Phenom Paint Shop 250, and it looks to be that Matthew Fitz, the 6'9 machine, is going to make his way back out onto track here after quite a while down in pit road. So good to see a couple drivers making their way back out onto the track and going to complete a few more laps here tonight. But Gareth, Corcel, trouble for the 7 Sour Patch Kids machine.
I was just about to make a Sour Patch comment. The commentator's curse wasn't there, but my thinking, I think, may have thrown him off a little bit. As Sean Williams is just behind as well. But a good point to note is that even though we have had a few cautions, a few mishaps, all 4 of the starting Crown Jewel drivers are still on the lead lap and still going strong. So that is great to note, as we have Tony Hillebrands and Howie Briss still fighting for the lead. 2 of those Crown Jewel drivers that I was talking about just before as you ride on the roof cam, looking back at Howie Briss from Tony Hilbrands. They're going to go side by side into T1.
Here into turn number 1, we're looking out the front view now of the 92 machine. We're going to see if we can see the nose of the 97. There it is, as we see a little bit of the back end step out there from Tony Hilbrand's 7 machine. But Howie Briss definitely putting the pressure on Hilbrands there to make that pass happen. And now Corcel looking for some action here on the outside, pushing his way up into second place, or at least trying to push his way up into second as we come through turns 1 and 2, out onto the back straightaway. Fight down the back straight as Nicholas Lovell into the wall there. A little bit of contact, keeps it together though. Mosteller just behind him in the 87 machine, probably had to check up on that one, make sure he didn't make contact into that. But Lovell gonna stack right back up behind the Daisy 76 machine of Charles Jurek as we come through turns 1 and 2. And if we come to lap 166 of 246 here.
Yeah, so Nicholas Lovell, we've seen, has been really struggling with that car. I think all race long has been a little bit looser than he's wanted to be, and the setup is not quite to his liking. So at the moment, really struggling with a loose rear end, as you can see just there. Once again, a little bit of wobbling coming out of the exit of turn 3. We have seen a few drivers accidentally get that left front tire caught on the apron, and that's certainly something you do not want to do, as that will get the car very loose. We saw that happen with Aaron Smith earlier on in the race, and I believe that was probably the reason that caused him to decide that he didn't want to be involved anymore. As we continue to watch this battle, I love this kind of view from the roof cam. You can see the drivers all in front, just in a line, just biding their time, and someone's going to find some speed out of nowhere and jump to too wide.
Yeah, you know, and it's really interesting to see kind of the dives that some of these drivers will take to make those passes happen, and it seems like a really risky thing to do here on a track that just doesn't really give you the sense of confidence to be able to do that sort of thing. I mean, just with how much this track kind of bumps, and there his 37 machine with a little bit of a slide there, getting it corrected very quickly though down the back straightaway. You know, that's just a good example of just how difficult this race is for these drivers. And you know what, let's actually take a moment here and ride on board from the cockpit view, from the helmet camera of Daniel Mosteller in the 87 machine, and just look at kind of how much he's twisting and turning that wheel around, trying to keep this car in a straight line and trying to keep it as fast as possible without burning up the tires, so on and so forth. We're going to go ahead and listen to the sights and sounds here at Rockingham, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back, race fans, as we were getting a little bit of an onboard view here with the 87 of Daniel Mosteller. Doing great work here behind the wheel as, you know, getting back into the groove of things these drivers are after a good chunk of the field getting themselves involved in various incidents in the past couple cautions that we've seen. But now that we've seen the numbers sort of dwindle here, the competition becomes a lot stiffer, if you will. There's less drivers to compete with, but there's also less chance, I guess, if you want to think of it that way, that you'll be able to get up to the front. You know, if you find yourself out of the draft or you're not able to link up with a driver and kind of turn laps together. I mean, we've seen Howie Briss towards the beginning of the race. I mean, he came away with, I think it was almost 7 seconds of a gap before he came down into the pits during that first stint here before that first pit stop. But either way, I think tonight is going to have some interesting developments here as we get closer to the end of tonight's race. Lap 179 of 246, just over 60 laps left to go here tonight, Gareth.
Yeah, and if you're Tony Hilbrands, it's really a question of how you want to play it, because he knows that he's probably going to want to stay out on these tires. So does he push to stay in the draft of Howie Briss and let Howie Briss keep going, or does he try and make the move and stay in front himself, or does he actually fall back slightly and hold on to those tires? It's always a very unclear question. I mean, if we do get a caution at some point, then it doesn't particularly matter just how much you use up those tires, depending on how early the caution comes. And as we saw, Hilbrands really seeming to want to make a move on Howie Briss, goes to the inside, tucks it down. Howie Briss is going to have the preferred line driving off though, and hold onto it, as we see Charles Jurek is really closing the gap on these two as they've been battling as well. So that's an interesting point to note, as Hilbrands has a much shallower line than Howie Briss as well going into the corner. So definitely a lot of differences happening all over the track, with a lot of these drivers choosing different lines, saving tires, being aggressive. It's, strategies. I don't know. It's all over the shop really at the Rock.
Yeah, looking at this move here from Tony Hilbrands, just getting his nose right into the tail of Howie Briss here, trying to stay as close as he possibly can, and really, realistically, just stay in the mirrors of Howie Briss. Just put the pressure on him, just let him know that he's there, and try and get him to shake. Trying to get him to make any sort of mistakes that he possibly can, whether, that's getting that rear end just a little too sideways, and all of a sudden you're able to make that pass. I mean, that's all that it takes here, folks, but you got to be able to make that happen first in order to get to that point. So, I mean, Hilbrand's doing everything that he possibly can to Briss, and, Briss is seasoned at this point. He's a veteran here with the Velocity Racing League, and he's not going to just let this go easy for any drivers, regardless of if it's, ooh, look at this move, down the back straightaway. I think there might have been a little bit of contact between the two, as Hilbrands dropped down to the bottom of the track and rejoined Briss up at the top through 3 and 4, but that definitely seemed to catch him off guard there as we come back through turns 1 and 2. The 92 Phenom paint shop machine going to try and get himself back up to the rear of the 97, but only 8 drivers left on the lead lap, and right now there's about a 1.5-second gap between the top 3 and the rest of the field at this point. So I don't know, between Briss, Hilbrands, and Jurek, these guys are going to be driving it away for the top 3 spots, and from there it's all a different story from there. Yeah,
very surprised to see Jurek where he is now. interesting question with in regards to, you know, if you were Jurek, Mason, I I've always wondered, do you go for the win because you're a racing driver? Of course you go for the win. Or do you hold back just a little bit because, you know, Briss and Hillbrands are the crown jewel drivers at this point and they're both battling for a lead themselves?
You know, I think in this situation, you got to understand what's at stake for these drivers. I mean, for Jurek, it's a win at stake here. I mean, Jurek has had a relatively decent season here. 10th place in the point standings, but get this, he hasn't won a single race yet this season. So, I mean, Jurek is, while he may not be fighting for a top spot in the championship or even for a spot here in the Crown Jewel race, given that Hillbrands and Briss both competing for that extra $100 here if they win, either one of them win. Jurek here, he's looking to just come home with his first win here tonight, so I think there's a lot at stake here in tonight's race, and it's more than championship standings and points. It's more than winning some extra cash, and it's more than just coming home with a win for some drivers here tonight. So it's definitely a lot of excitement here at the Rock.
Oh yeah, big time. Big time excitement.
I don't think I answered your question though, did I?
No, you didn't.
No. Okay. Well, let me answer your question here a little bit more effectively. I don't think I would want to try and take the move on any of these guys if it was me.
But he's racing for his first win. I mean, you know, you can't tell him to not. You know, if you're a racing driver,
well,
you're gonna go for the win.
I guess if I was put right now in Charles Jurek's shoes, I think I would go for the win, 100%. You know, it's close to the end of the season. You know, it's not like it's gonna hurt Howie Briss as far as points are concerned, or Hillbrands as far as points are concerned.
Whoa! Miller just out of nowhere
Dive bombed
just like a lightning bolt, just vroom, just gone. And that's new tires under his machine, as he is multiple laps down. So that explains the difference in speed there, but definitely was not expecting to see that, and much more of a huge difference when you're in the view that we were in with Jurek, and just all of a sudden a car out of nowhere just flying past.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused here because James Miller actually was down in pit road for quite some time. He came back out. I don't know when he came back out, but he came back out here, and he's not exactly on a fresh set of tires. He's just on less used tires at this point. But just, yeah, like you were saying, Gareth, just showing how much pace you can get out of a fresh set of tires is just phenomenal. And I think at this point, the tires he's on are only 15 or so laps.
I think he came out around lap 170, something like that.
I think so. I think you might be right.
So, I mean, still, that's you know, that's 15 to 20 laps of a difference. That's gonna matter.
Oh, 100%.
So, anyway, that just completely blew my mind as much as he blew by the other cars on track.
Nice save, Gareth. A nice save.
Yeah, you're welcome. As Jurek and Briss is still going at it, and Hillbrands has made a little bit of a gap, almost half a second. So that's surprising, but Briss might be saving some tires. Yeah, I'm worried for Hillbrand's sake that he might be using his tires a little bit too much to try and make that gap as large as possible.
Yeah, we're just gonna, I mean, it's winding down to the final few laps here of the race, and while I have a minute here, I'm gonna shout out the owner, the founder of Team Goon Squad, James East. out in the chat saying hello to both myself and Gareth McAllister. Hello, James. Hopefully you're doing well on your adventures, your work adventures, wherever you happen to be this time. But always good to see all of our, not only fans, but fellow commentators, friends, family, all of that joining us for our broadcast. So great to have everyone. Hopefully all of you who are tuning in right now are enjoying the action here as it continues to unfold. And I got to say here, folks, you know, at this point, 201 laps into today's race, man, this has been probably the most, I don't know, I think one of the most difficult races as far as strategy goes for these drivers, I think, all season long. Well, I mean, I know you're still relatively new to the season here, Gareth, but I mean, what do you think as far as what you've seen so far?
I've never seen a race with more differences in strategy. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that. From Benny Hogan's attempt at just something different to, you know, Corsell and Mostella staying out for 100 laps, you know, on their tires when everyone else came down around lap 70 or so. I mean, it's been crazy. It's been I've very much enjoyed it. I love that kind of thing. I'm very much a stat person, so yeah, I love it. Unfortunately, we did have that caution that brought everyone together and kind of switched it up, but then made another interesting strategy come into play with, you know, pretty much forcing all these drivers to stay on this one tire compound for about 90 or so laps. So I mean, it's been an incredible race from my perspective. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's just been absolutely crazy to try and really work out what's going on with all the different drivers out on track. I must say, I know where the race is sponsored by Phenom Paint Shop, and you know, it's been great to see all the different paints, and of course they're leading the race with Tony Hillbrands at the moment, but it's been great to see all the new paints that have come out. We've seen some different liveries on a lot of these different cars, and I very much enjoyed as there's the 76 with a huge save. I don't think I've seen a car that sideways stay. Did he stay off the wall? I think he did. That was incredible. That I just have to say right now, hats off. Just yeah. I mean, I'm not wearing a hat, but if I was, hats off to Charles Jurek, because that was incredible save. I think yeah, I think Jaden Hopp got into the wall just around where Charles Jurek was after he managed to save that car. So I think we saw him on broadcast just before, just smacking into the wall. So unfortunate end of the night for him, but he might be able to get back out there, but won't be fighting for a top spot, that's for sure, as we've still got Hillbrands out front, which is definitely blowing my mind. I'm surprised. I would have thought that those tires would be screaming out right now with the way that I've seen Tony take some of these bends. He doesn't seem to be as, like Howie Briss, you can see a little bit higher up there, probably a little bit more gentle with the throttle, and not cornering as hard, really wearing off those tires. So Hillbrand's making it work for longer than I expected, and we'll see how this one goes, as Mostella's been making his way back to the front. We saw this earlier in the very first stint. Mostella somehow able to make his way from the back to the front just on tire management. So that could really throw a spanner in the works, as he has gone past now Howie Briss.
Yeah, this could definitely start to have some interesting effects on tonight's race. And I mean, looking at it from the perspective of Tony Hillbrands, that might not actually, I don't know. I think Tony right now, he's got his eyes set on what he wants. And right now, he's looking pretty comfortable at this moment with Daniel Mosteller and Howie Briss kind of trailing behind him. One thing to still kind of keep in mind here is we could still see these drivers be affected, are going to see these drivers affected by tire wear here as we get closer to the end stage of tonight's race. I mean, these drivers are about 60 laps into their run here on these tires, and that, I mean, again, remembering the first half of tonight's race where drivers were coming in about 70 to 80 laps into their runs, will we see these drivers start to fall off once we get towards that 70 to 80 lap margin, or are we going to see the opposite? I mean, like I said, kind of towards the second half of tonight's race, was that, this was really going to test these drivers' long-run strategies, and I think so far it has.
Well, it's interesting to see so far that Mostella has really been, I want to say, the king of tire strategy and saving those good years for the right moment to start pouncing. So I think Mostella, if he can get by Hillbrands, he'll be very tough to try and catch up to if they don't end up all deciding that they can't make it to the end of this race without pitting. But Hillbrand's showing me something I didn't expect to see, and that's just the attrition of just staying out in front and getting that clean air, using it to his advantage, and not wearing off those tires as quick as I almost expected him to. So great drive from him so far, but Mostella definitely putting the pressure on at the moment.
100%, as we have Benny Hogan here, a little bit of trouble, and that's going to bring out the yellow flag here once again at the Rockingham Speedway.
Why?
I think I disabled Gareth here. Did you not like that one?
No, I just wasn't ready for it. It's just sometimes, Mason. Sometimes it's just unreal.
Like I said before, you can never let them know your next move. Let's take a look at the instant replay here with Benny Hogan in the Kellogg's machine. Coming out of turn number 2, and there goes the rear end, and kind of dramatically too there. It just, all of a sudden, he looks fine 1 second, then the next, not so great, and he does a great job locking up those tires, bringing that car to a stop here. Kind of with a little bit of a tap to the wall there, but hopefully not too bad. The biggest one being to the front left side. You can see that front end there. A little worse for wear here, but Fourth caution of the race, and the whole field coming down into pit road, and multiple drivers going to find themselves wanting a fresh set of tires as well as a full tank of gas here on this restart. And look at this, Nicholas Corcel going to stay out here amongst the drivers on the lead lap, and I don't know, he might actually drop it down here this turn.
Yeah, I thought Corcel was gonna drop it down because I think he was a lap behind the leaders.
Yep, there he goes right there.
So he's come down just now, but yeah, it's certainly there's no such thing as strategy now. It's all thrown out the window. Everyone get some tires. Everyone get ready to go, and we're gonna have 25 laps of hopefully green flag craziness as we get ready to ramp them up once again. Benny Hogan, unfortunately, just spinning it around to bring out that caution. Just seemed like a little bit of apron on the front left tire, or rear left tire probably, with it was on the left somewhere, and unfortunately just dragging that car around. So he and James Miller just in front of Hilbrands will get waved around the pace car, I'm certain of that. And then we will get ready to go back to green.
Indeed we will, as our timing tower here looks a little strange like that, so I'm going to go ahead and pretend that didn't exist. But going back to green flag here just another short pace lap around the track. Tony Hilbrands, Howie Briss, Daniel Mosteller, Sean Williams, Charles Durek, all going to be up on our top 5 here with 24 laps left to go. And the lights are going to be off on the pace truck, this time around. So 23 laps will be all that is left here on this final restart. 8 drivers going to be on the lead lap, and all going to be patiently awaiting this last and final restart of the, hopefully, this last and final restart of the race. And it's going to be a mad dash to the finish for Howie Briss, Tony Hilbrands, and all the drivers here competing for not only $100 in their pocket, but 4 points in the championship. Gareth, why don't you take us to green this time?
Oh, with pleasure, Mason. As we have Tony Hilbrands and Howie Briss side by side as they get ready to go. We've seen Hilbrands have a little bit more speed on the start. Seems to spin the tires a little bit, and Howie Briss gets by on the outside. Howie Briss getting real loose, though, as Hilbrands comes back around. Going to take this spot right back as they continue to be side by side. 2 back as well, as Mostella and Williams are behind as well. Together, Williams goes for a ride. Not collecting anyone else. Fantastic job, unfortunately enough to bring out the caution. And we will rack him back up once again.
Unfortunate to see that happen here too for Sean Williams, the 89 machine. I mean, he's had a really good run here in tonight's race, and I mean, he's not exactly out of the race either. He didn't get any damage to that machine. Frankly, he didn't get any other drivers collected in that one either. So great work all around to all of the drivers, and as well to Sean Williams to getting that car out of that situation without fault. But yeah, I think with 22 laps left to go, I think the nerves are definitely high. The tension is definitely even higher, between Hilbrands and Briss. I know we can't exactly see it right now, or hear it, rather, in the racing chat that these drivers can communicate to each other in. I'm more than certain that it is going to be a very heated battle going into the final, I will say, 19 laps left to go here at Rockingham Speedway.
it's looking like quite the race that it's shaping out to be, that's for sure. As I do believe Hilbrands is in quite a good position to bring this one, as I think we've seen a little bit more speed out of Hilbrands in shorter runs than we have from Howie Briss. Howie Briss seems more like a mid to late pace sort of car, so Hilbrands is looking in a good position, but you know, as I'm sure Dawn doesn't want me to say the commentator's curse, so I'll probably talk about someone else. Daniel Mostella in third position is currently our highest mover, our hard charger in third position. I think I already said that. He is up 10 positions since the start of this race, so Mostella's really been, I've been incredibly impressed with Mostella this race. That's, and as well as Charles Jurek, those two drivers have very much shown a lot of pace here at the Rock that I was not expecting to see them up in the places where they are now, sitting third and fourth. But here they are, and they're getting ready to race for Jurek for his first win, and for Mostella his second win. So they're not going to make it easy on Briss or Hilbrands, regardless of the crown jewel.
No. Nope. It is going to be a mad dash here to the finish of tonight's race as we take it across the line. The lights go off on the pace truck, and when we come back around, it'll be 18 laps left to go. And I gotta say, it's going to be a fast 18 laps. If my math serves me right, that'll be roughly about 3 minutes, a little over 3 minutes in total. That drivers will actually, no, that's not the correct math here. It'll be about 6 minutes, a little over 6 minutes, about 6-7 minutes in total of driving left for these guys. You know,
I mean, that's if it's green flag, though.
Exactly. If it's all green flag, it's about 7 minutes in total that we have left in tonight's race. And while that seems like a lot, in terms of racing, that ain't much. That is very little to work with, and with how difficult passing is here at Rockingham, man, this restart is either going to be a blessing or a curse. As we come back to green flag, it's 18 laps left to go here for the Phenom Paint Shop 250, as the title sponsor takes it into turn number 1 and out of 2 onto the back straightaway, side by side behind him as they go double file throughout a variety of this field, all trying to scrap for positions, all trying to get momentum. A good run here with 17 laps left to go, and I gotta say, you know, Hilbrand's off to a very, very good start here, trying to get a good gap as the 87 of Mosteller gets a little loose. He keeps it together, and down the back straightaway, the caution is avoided, and the 87 machine suffers a loss of position, but luckily not a loss of a race car.
Well, there's the commentator's curse. So it hit Mostella pretty hard after I announced how well they were doing, but that was a great save by him and able to keep it green flag and caution free for the end of this one at the moment. So great job by him. Charles Jurek setting the fastest lap of the entire race just last time by 24.3 second lap time. So Jurek not letting these leaders get too far ahead as Briss goes for the move on Hilbrands. Hilbrands pinning him down to the bottom. They touch. They get together. Hilbrands spins Briss. Briss goes for a ride.
Briss goes up into the top wall, down the back straight. The 97 machine getting a little bit of a spin, and I think that might even put a grin on the face of Don Hilbrands watching the broadcast here at home. But for Howie Briss, I think there's definitely going to be some apologies being said to from Tony Hilbrands to Howie Briss in that situation. I don't think that either one of them wanted to make contact in that situation here, as we're going to take a look at the instant replay and just to kind of verify that and see exactly how this unfolded here. So taking a look here, we can see Hilbrand's just up on the outside and coming out of turn number 2 here, down the back straight. This is right before we seen that contact happen here, and it looks to be that Hilbrand's just a little bit unsteady there, trying to get his car straightened back. It might have even been that he was already starting to see that slide coming out of turn number 2 and was just trying to correct it, and unfortunately Briss just happened to be in his path.
Yeah, I think Hilbrand's just had a little bit more speed than he wanted on the exit there, and had to turn the wheel a little bit harder than he wanted to keep it off the outside wall, and unfortunately came down quicker than expected, and Howie Briss just happened to be there, and so contact was made, and yeah, it's just unfortunate.
But with that, that brings our... Sorry about that, Gareth.
Oh, that's all good.
With that, it brings our 6th caution here, and 13 laps left to go. All of our drivers trying to work out the kinks here, trying to get themselves settled back in and just ready to finish this race up, get that checkered flag, and see how the rest of tonight goes. But while we see the pace truck make its way around pit road, we're going to go ahead and take one last commercial break up here in the booth, and when we come back, we will have more coverage of the Phenom Paint Shop 250 here with Team Goon Squad. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and we'll be back for more iRacing in just a moment. Welcome back, race fans. As the lights are off on the pace truck, we get ourselves ready to go back to green flag here in just a few short moments, waiting for the pace truck to make its dive back down into pit road, and we will see the green flag drop here once again, and we will see 10 laps left here for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. Race number 30 of the 2022 Velocity Racing League Cup Series. I gotta say, this has been a phenomenal season to commentate for, a phenomenal league to witness and call the races for as we get ready to go back to green flag here. And see Tony Hilbrand's and Charles Jurek take it up in the front row on this restart. You can see Scott Shire, the other crown jewel contender, back there as well, among other drivers up here in the top rows here on this restart. Back to green flag, 10 laps left to go. Hilbrand's only has to keep it together these last 10 laps, and he will come home victorious as well as $100 richer after tonight's race. But still a few laps left to turn here, and already starting to build up a little bit of a gap between himself and Charles Jurek. But meanwhile, Lovell down on the inside of Nicholas Coruscant trying to make some moves happen here as well, and you can even see Scott Shire on the inside of Sean Williams trying to move his way up as much as he can with 9 laps left to go.
Yeah, Mason Sour Patch sponsored car from Nicholas Coruscant, really showing how it's done as we got a pass for the lead. Charles Jurek takes it away. from Tony Hilbrands. Did not expect that one to happen, but Hilbrands seemed a little bit off the pace just there, so I'm not sure as they get in side by side.
Oh,
They're gonna
no!
make another caution come out potentially as Hilbrand stays on.
Oh!
Bang! That's yep.
That's
Okay.
a done race car right there.
That's taking Scott Schauer out as well. And who do we have near the front? It is Howie Brisk come back for some revenge as well. When this one will all cycle out. So that's... Ooh. That was... I believe that was Hilbrands just getting a little bit overzealous, just deciding that he thought he had more room than he did. And obviously Jurek was there. Great save from Hilbrands not to get too much damage. Jurek tried very hard, and unfortunately the banking did not help him out with that one. Seems like might have been able to hold on to it, but got into the 25 degrees of turn 3 and just slid straight up into Scott Schauer, taking out another one of our crown jewel contenders.
Yeah, and that was a rough impact for the 76 machine, Charles Jurek. That's definitely going to be the end of the 76 cars race here tonight. Very unfortunate circumstances, and even more so here, maybe not so much here for Tony Hilbrands. I mean, Tony kind of came out from that relatively unscathed. A couple beats and bangs to the bodywork here, but doesn't seem like he's got too much damage. The only thing is, though, now we have Nicholas Corcel and Nicholas Lovell both ahead. Both of the Knicks up here in the front row. So both the 7 and the 37 machine going to have a slight advantage here going into this restart. And I gotta say, I mean, both Corcel and Lovell have put on very good performances here in the final kind of stage of tonight's race. So I would almost expect to see quite a bit of a challenge here for Hilbrands or even Howie Brisk, both drivers looking to come home with the crown jewel tonight, to have a little bit of competition before we see the checkered flag fly.
Yeah, it'll be an exciting race to the finish. There's no doubt about that. Especially with, you know, Hilbrands and Brisk side by side once again, just behind these two cars up front of Corcel and Lovell. So it should be a good one. We've seen Lovell struggle a lot lately with I say lately, this race, with the looseness of his car. And we've seen Corcel typically have more of a sort of a long run car and some blinking issues, as you see there. So it could really get interesting as to how this one seems to unfold. It looks like we have about 7 cars on the lead lap now, after the very long night that we've had here during this race today. So it's winding down, Mason. It's winding down, but I say it's winding down. The laps are winding down. The drivers are getting heated.
100%. I think this is going to be an exciting restart here. Folks, if you aren't already, I hope you are on the edge of your seats and ready for this restart to happen, as once we come back to green, it'll be 3 laps left to go. Consider it our first green-white checkered attempt here tonight. This is going to be an exciting one. And with Nicholas Lovell, Nicholas Corcel, both in the front row, Tony Hilbrands, Howie Brisk also in the second row, I don't know how this could get much more exciting here as we get ready to see the pace truck make its way down into pit lane. And go back to green flag here. There it goes. We're waiting for the marshal to drop the green flag, and away we go once again here at Rockingham Speedway. Hilbrands looking to try and take things possibly 3 wide here as we come into turn number 1. Corcel, he's off track and down into turn number 1. He's down on the bottom of the apron. Back out onto turn number 2. On the back straightaway, Lovell, He's able to get a little bit of a distance between the rest of the field. Now Hilbrand's Brisk grabbing for spot number 2. As we come across the checkered line here, Hilbrand's Brisk, they continue to fight for second place. Lovell, he's gotten over a quarter of a second gap right now, but with 2 laps left to go, how much will these guys have to fight to get closer to the front here? Hilbrand's dropping all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack through 3 and 4, trying to bring down that gap between the leader. Brisk right on the tail of the 92 machine as we come through 1 and 2. The white flag is out. It's the final lap here at Rockingham for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. A drag race down the back straightaway. Heading into turn number 3. Who's it going to be for the win here tonight? Lovell's in the lead at this moment. No mistakes coming out of turn number 4. He's nice and clean. Hilbrand's, Lovell, they duke it out for second place, and it is inches between the two. Oh, wow. Whoa. Wow. Wow.
That was a bullet right there.
That was a massive bullet. That was wow. I thought we were seeing a maglev gun being shown for a second there.
That was the sound they made. Oof. That was the sound. That's what you were doing. Good job, guys.
Man. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was an exciting one to call. But it also a very exciting finish here for the 37 of Nicholas Lovell. I mean, Lovell, another driver in the series that, you know, doesn't exactly come home with a whole lot of wins or, excuse me, you know, but he's out here being consistent. He's out here just trying to do the best that he can. And to come out of a race like Rockingham, great work here for Nicholas Lovell. And I'm sure we're going to have some good words with him once we get him up here into the broadcast booth. But let's go ahead and get started on our post-race interviews here tonight, Gareth. And let's have a word with some of our drivers here tonight. And starting first is going to be our third place driver as well as our leader in the points championship here as we get our feature results up here, just getting ourselves ready to bring Mr. Brisk down here into the booth. But yeah, so Howie Brisk being our leader in the championship, coming home with another podium here tonight at Rockingham. Howie, this was a tough race to be in, and going side by side across the checkered line for a fight for second place with Hilbrand's, and only being beaten by just 1/100 of a second, and probably more than that if you want to get more technical. But Brisk, it was, like I said, a tough race here tonight, and coming home with a podium, how are you feeling? And do you feel that you could have done better, or do you think it would have went a lot worse?
Oh, I could have done 100% better, no doubt about it. If it wasn't for the 92 that just got loose down into me, I felt like I had a shot to win. But it is what it is. We'll just move on to next week. So,
well, Howie, definitely a rough night for a lot of drivers, and for yourself included, with that little bit of contact there with Hilbrand's. I mean, you made a great recovery after that. I'm sure it's definitely not what you wanted to have to do in that moment, but taking it, like you said, just gonna pick it up and go forward into next week. What are you kind of feeling going into next week's race? I believe it's not a road course.
It's Nashville.
Nashville. So how are you feeling about Fairgrounds, and are you hoping to see yourself ahead of the 92 next week?
100%. I'm going to race him hard, just like he raced me. I mean, I know he got loose off of 2 this race, but I'm going to give him hell. I'm going to give him absolute hell. I'm going to be his worst nightmare, so.
Love to hear it. I'm excited to see what you've got in store for next week's race at Nashville. But Howie, before I let you go here tonight and celebrate tonight's podium, is anyone watching the broadcast, anyone at home or in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank?
Well, there is one person I want to shout out to. His name is Joseph Thomas, and before the race started, he got an invite to the Gateway Dirt Nationals down in St. Louis. So congratulations, Joe, on getting in. I'll be going with them down in December. So now we go on to the thank you part. Grandmother and Granddad upstairs, they're watching the race. They're probably not happy at the 92, but it is what it is. I raced them hard and clean, but Yeah, Aunt Stephanie, everyone else that's watching. But yeah, third sucks. We're gonna go like hell, so.
Well, good luck to you next week, Howie, and hopefully we don't see any of that contact that we saw here tonight, and hopefully get to see yourself out in the front, leading and coming home with a win next week at the Nashville Fairgrounds.
Yeah, I hope so. So.
All right, Howie, you have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Alrighty, folks, a very, very not enthusiastic Howie Briss here tonight, not too enthralled with being dumped from, well, not necessarily, well, he kind of was dumped there, getting put out of that lead and getting put down quite a few positions here and having to fight for a podium here tonight. But up next, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Gareth McAllister, and he is going to take it away here with Tony Hillbrands coming home with second place tonight here by just a matter of inches.
Yeah, Tony, g'day, mate. How you been doing?
Well, I was doing better until that last caution.
Yeah, we saw that one come out, and honestly, I don't know, well, I have to address the elephant in the room. You and Howie Briss had one crazy fight heading into the last few cautions. I don't know. I guess I could ask so many questions, but I guess the question I want to start with is probably, we heard some choice words from Howie Briss. Do you reckon that you guys are going to clear the air, or do you reckon it's just the red mist that came into both of your eyes really towards the end of that one? You saw the $100 in front, you thought, oh, I gotta go for it, or were you just racing hard like normal?
Well, yeah, we were racing for the win there, so like I wasn't gonna let him go, and he got a little loose like earlier in that corner, and he tapped me a little, and then all of a sudden my car snapped, and I wasn't gonna put it in the wall that late in the race, you know, so I just tried to catch it, but his car got there before I could catch it, and he got spun. I just really a racing deal, and I understand why he's mad. I'd be mad too. But yeah, and then I haven't gotten to see what happened with Charles yet. I thought I gave him plenty of room coming out of the corner, but if I came up and got into him, then I guess that's on me. But that was also, you know, at the end of the race, got to go for the win there. And I thought we were gonna have a nice drag race going into the next corner there down the backstretch, but just, you know, stuff happens, and then I ended up restarting third, and I just couldn't overcome that. So I mean, second's nice, and I beat Howie, so I'm going to gain some points on him, but could have been a lot nicer tonight.
All right, so I got to ask as well, because we were constantly referring to it throughout the broadcast. How was tyre wear this race? Because it seemed to be a huge factor in the way strategy was playing out before all those cautions happened to come up and change things around.
Well, if you were like not wary of it, like you were just racing like you're racing, then yeah, it was pretty bad. I knew, especially after that first incident, because I had to start in the back, I had to throw tires on because I was in that first caution, and I had to start way back there. I ran a different line where I kind of diamond 1 and 2 a little bit, and that kept my right front underneath me, so it wasn't a problem for me, but I understand other people having issues with it, especially the people that were trying to run the high line. Like that was eating their tires really badly.
Okay. And that's actually quite interesting, because we saw a little bit more speed out of that high line, but probably not as good on the tire wear, as you say. And finally, how'd you find the bumps at the Rock? Because we saw the cars were just, as Dawn said in the chat, they were just basically driving like they were jet skis.
Oh, I love this track. This is one of my favorite tracks. Unfortunately, tonight continued the trend where I've had the chance to win every race we've ever ran here, but something stupid's happened, and I lost the race at the end. So I'll take second, though. It's better than getting wrecked out. So we still got 6 races left, so I got to try to do what I can to make up as many points on Howie as possible. But next week's a short track, so anything can happen there.
All right, sounds good, Tony. We'll catch you next week, like you said, at the .6 of a mile track at Nashville Fairgrounds under night conditions, under the lights, I should say. And finally, who would you like to shout out for this second place? Unfortunately, not a win, but maybe next week. Who would you like to shout out? Friends, family, sponsors for the second place.
Yeah, everybody that tunes in. Again, we put these on for you guys. Everybody shows up because we can't put them on for anybody if no one shows up. But I think we had some really good racing tonight, even though I think it was a little smaller field and people got wrecked a little bit. But and then I'd like to thank Charles for dooring me, or me dooring him, whatever, because that gave me the second instead of the first. But it's all good. And then out you guys for broadcasting. Great to have you guys. It's always fun to go back and watch. And again, thanks everyone for tuning in.
All right, thank you, Tony. It's been great to have you. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see you in Victory Lane once again in not too long a time.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Alrighty, folks. So that was Tony Hillbrand's out of the booth here, bringing home second place tonight for the Phenom Paint Shop 250. Last and certainly not going to be least here, Nicholas Lovell, the 37 driver, bringing it home for the win here tonight in kind of what feels like the last moments of the race. Nicholas, drivers all over the track finding themselves struggling with the track here tonight, and seemingly yourself included in that category, but coming out on top victorious. What was your expectations coming into Rockingham? I mean, it seemed like tonight was definitely one of those tracks where you were either confident, you knew the track, or you just came into it and hoped for the best.
Oh, I was just winging it. I didn't really have much expectations after practice, but I had about 10 laps of speed, and it worked out to where all I needed was about 5 laps of speed. So, yeah, right place, right time. Caressel got loose on the bottom, and after he got loose, I could check out. Nobody up there to race me, so it worked out.
Well, and after tonight's race here as well, I believe you do move yourself up one spot in the championship to second place ahead of Jaden Hopp here. So, I mean, while Howie Bristol kind of has a dominant hold on the championship, it seems to be that Howie is pretty much going to be crowned the winner here for the 2022 championship. But knowing that yourself is up here in the top 3 and kind of seeing, only 6 races left in the season, what's kind of your, what's ultimately your goal, or what's your takeaway? At least I know this is kind of a little early to ask, but what's your takeaway from this season so far, and how are you going to use that going forward into not only this season, the rest of the season, but into next season as well?
If you're going to have a bad finish, make that bad finish be like 10th, not 18th, 19th. Because I think that's what really got me. I mean, otherwise I'd probably be, well, I didn't miss a race, but otherwise I'd probably be up further up. But, Howie's just had a good season. Hadn't had really too much bad happen to him. When something bad does happen, he still finishes like 6th. So, I don't mind finishing second to somebody like that. He's been faster all season and finishes in the right spots when he needs to. So, if I can hold on to second, I'll be pretty pleased with that.
Absolutely. Well, I love to hear it, Nicholas. You've done a phenomenal job here tonight in the 37 Budweiser machine. And before we let you go and crack open a cold one down in pit lane with the rest of your pit crew and all the other drivers down there celebrating the podiums tonight, is there anyone watching the broadcast, anyone at home in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go?
Yeah, my boy Jared's been getting on me about not shouting him out, so I don't know if he's watching tonight or not. He probably ain't. This is the one time I'm going to shout him out. He's going to miss it. But Jared, you better be watching, because I shouted you out.
Well, great to have you up here, Nicholas, and hopefully get to see you next week at Nashville Fairgrounds and hopefully see some similar success here for the 37 car.
That would be nice.
Absolutely. Have a good one, Nick.
Later.
Alrighty, folks, that was Nicholas Lovell out of the booth here tonight, bringing home the win. And that is going to conclude our coverage here tonight of the Phenom Paint Shop 250. And I got to say, this was quite the race to not only witness, but to commentate for. and I gotta say, it was quite a good one to be here for. So, for myself and for Gareth McAllister, joined alongside me here in the broadcasting booth, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad 7 nights a week. And we will see you all same time and same place next week for the race at Nashville Fairgrounds for the Music City 250. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you all next week.